This is our moment.
I'm your host, Corey Phillips.
Time to be great than today.
OFFTOP Podcast.
It's a play. Bryant for the lead. Yes!
Time! What up, what up, what up? Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is Corey Phillips, OFFTOP Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Follow us on every single platform available. Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Apple Music, Apple everything. It's all there. Just follow us, like, subscribe, share the page. Please, we appreciate it. All the love and all the support. But we need more. So please follow us, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your cats, dogs, neighbors, parents overseas, all that stuff. But welcome to OFFTOP Podcast. We said it was episode 23, right, guys?
Yes, sir.
Episode 23. Took a little week off. I just got back from Vegas. It was a phenomenal trip, let's just put it that way. Kind of wish I would have waited to go until the end of this month because the draft is coming up in Vegas at the end of this month. But nevertheless, had a phenomenal time. I went to the best buffet at Caesar's Palace. Stayed at the Mirage. Saw a bunch of stuff and had a fantastic time, and I needed to break. So it was awesome. I had fun, but it's back to business as usual. Couple things. Vegas in beginning of April, mid-April, best weather because it was mid-80s the whole time I was there, basically. It was the hottest it got is like 90 degrees on Saturday.
That's perfect.
Perfect weather. Poolside and Mirage, phenomenal. Like I said, the best buffet is at Caesar's Palace. We'll talk about that later. But overall, I mean, it was just a day. It was just spring break. It was a time to get away, hang out with friends. It was there for an actual birthday party. What can I say? I love Vegas. That's all there is to it. I mean, look, man. I mean, if I had it my way, I would probably spend a lot of my time on the strip, just going to casinos, gambling, making some money, sports bets, all that stuff. I'll tell you what, the best sports book in Vegas by far, and it's not even on the strip, it's in Fremont. It's at Circa, which is one of the newer hotels in Fremont. They have, without a shadow of a doubt, probably the best sports book. Now, not to discredit the sports book where I stayed at the Mirage, because they have the MGM sports book there, and it's pretty tight. But Circa, oh my goodness. I mean, it's 3 times. Even the one at Resort World, it blows the one at the Mirage out of the water. Between those two sports books, I went to the sports book in Circa for Mariners opening day. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. We're going to get into some Mariners stuff as baseball has started. So since the last podcast, the baseball season has started. Mariners played today. We'll get into them in a second. But I also watched the UFC pay-per-view there on Saturday. Got to watch the prelims poolside because we had a reserve cabana poolside at the Mirage, which was phenomenal, by the way. Watched the prelims there. Went to the sports book. Watched the pay-per-view after that. But there's lots of stuff. It's Vegas, man. It's phenomenal. I love that town. So I had my good time there. By Sunday, I was burnt out. I was ready to come back home. So here we're back to our handling business. But a lot to get into. We're going to talk about the Mariners. The NBA play-in tournament started tonight. There's a game that just went final. No, it's about 4 seconds left, so it's about to go final. So we're going to talk about that. There's another play-in game tonight. There's 2 more tomorrow. So we'll see what happens with that. Baseball is in full swing. Dwayne Haskins, we're going to get into that for a few minutes as if you haven't heard, Dwayne Haskins passed away on, was it Saturday? Sunday? It was Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday.
It was Saturday. Dwayne Haskins, age 24. As you know, he was part of the Pittsburgh Steelers roster as one of their quarterbacks who is going to be fighting for the job more than likely this season. He gets hit by a truck on Saturday morning or Saturday evening at the age of 24. So Dwayne Haskins, premier talent at Ohio State, holds basically almost every single passing record with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Got drafted by the back then Washington Redskins, now they're Washington, what do they call them now? The Commanders or whatever. So he got drafted by Washington. He was there for 1 year. They cut bait. He gets signed on by the Steelers. And it looked like he was going to get a shot at the starting job. And that news broke the other day on Saturday, and it was devastating. I don't even know. I didn't even have the words. He's so young. He was coming from practice, apparently. I don't know any additional details on that, but it's just sad when you have something unfortunate like that happens to a player who is so young, and he still had promise. You know what I'm saying? He still had opportunities to. I mean, because he's only 24. He's only been in the league for 3 years, so it was a sad thing to see waking up to that. So rest in peace, Dwayne Haskins. There's going to be a ceremony this week, and I know the Steelers are planning something for opening day when their whole home opener comes up for him, which now leads to the Steelers in the draft. What do they go from here? Because now it's almost for sure that Mitchell Trubisky is going to be the starting quarterback. Now you're down to Mitchell Trubisky and Mason Rudolph. It really is a one-man show at this point. I would assume the Steelers are going to be thinking about bringing somebody in to their quarterback situation this year. So we'll see what happens. But the draft is in a couple weeks. There's still some teams that have some big decisions to make. There's still some big free agents out there. I was looking at some of the notable free agents that are out there right now. Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham Jr., Stephon Gilmore, the Honey Badger, Tyrese Matthew is still out there. There are some big names still out there, and I think they're waiting now that the free agency frenzy has calmed down a little bit. Teams are waiting on the draft of what we can do. We did see a crazy draft pick trade between the Eagles and the Saints. This was the next day after the last show that we did. And the Eagles, it seems like, are trying to maneuver themselves for next year's draft, where there's going to be a viable quarterback, which tells me that they're not 100% sold on Jalen Hurst. And also, the Saints are not sold on Jameis Winston in their quarterback situation. So a lot of these maneuvers that I'm seeing, it's setting up for next year's draft, because let's be honest, this year's quarterback draft is not very good. I mean, these guys are moving, some of these quarterbacks that are moving up the draft board they're just going based on their pro days, let's be honest. These were not highly regarded.
Matt Corral?
No.
Oh. That was my quarterback growing up.
That's great. I mean, second or third rounder typically, the only reason he's going up the draft board is because they're having these pro days, and there's teams out there are really, really desperate. Like, if you look at the wide receiver class, it's hands down probably one of the best ones that are coming out this year. I mean, that's why I think, like, the Chiefs, for example, made their move and not resigning Tyreek Hill for that amount of money, because they know with the picks that the haul that they're getting back from Miami, they can use that as draft capital to get a good wide receiver for cheap.
It's also a defensive heavy class.
Yeah, it's a defensive heavy class as well.
I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau is probably the best player in the draft.
But So to that point, Kansas City, it's twofold for them because they're looking to replace. Now Tyrann Mathieu is the latest victim because the Chiefs cut bait with him. So now he's an unrestricted free agent. Who, by the way, he visited the Saints on Monday. He got a call from the Philadelphia Eagles, so the Eagles are in play to pick him up as well. But he's asking for a lot of money. He's going to be asking for a lot of money. I don't know. And the Chiefs didn't want to pay that. Same thing with Tyreek Hill. I get why that move would upset some people, but in my eyes, I'm like, yeah, that might be the smart decision with the deep wide receiver class he got coming out. Now, I do need to address the situation in their secondary. They're going to have to replace Tyrann Mathieu. But the Eagles, the way they've moved, it's smart on them. Now, if they can pick up some of these guys and cash in on at least one or wide receiver, one more safety, that might be the move and save some draft capital. Maybe bring in one of those veteran wide receivers. Odell Beckham comes to mind.
I thought he sounded Green Bay.
No. He's still a free agent. He's in talks with Green Bay. Odell wants to go back to Cleveland. The only reason he wants to go back to Cleveland is because Deshaun Watson's there now. And it's not even guaranteed Deshaun Watson's going to play any games because those cases are still in the civil dispute. And he could get suspended by the league at least maybe 6 games. So there's a lot of moving parts still with him. I see why Jarvis Landry wants to go back to Cleveland too. It's basically wherever the big name quarterback is right now. But Jarvis Landry's still out there. It doesn't make sense because they just traded for Amari Cooper. They brought Amari Cooper to replace Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry had the worst numbers of his career. He only had 485 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. I was looking at his numbers yesterday. Right. Odell Beckham's interesting because I can see him fitting on several teams. I think it would be wise for him to go back to LA, but you just made the move for Allen Robinson. There's no room for you, and you already have Van Jefferson, you already have Cooper Kupp. You traded and got rid of Robert Woods because you didn't want to pay that salary. Robert Woods goes to Tennessee. But the Rams don't really need Odell Beckham back on the team. They're pretty much set at wideout. I can see him going to KC. That might be a good fit for him. Indianapolis comes to mind. Because Indianapolis is basically a wide receiver away from making a run at a Super Bowl. I'm telling you right now. The Matt Ryan move was genius. It was perfect. Now, the Cleveland Browns, on the other foot, still haven't made a move still haven't decided what they're going to do with Baker Mayfield. My thoughts have been, you cut your losses. You already brought in Jacoby Brissett. You already brought in Deshaun Watson on a fully guaranteed deal. And Baker Mayfield doesn't want to play in Cleveland anymore. That being said, there's not a real big market for him until he gets cut because he was due over $16.5 million. It's too much money for Baker Mayfield. I'm sorry. It's just too much. So, but the NFL, the frenzy has kind of slowed down a little bit. Like I said, those big names, look out for Stephon Gilmore, Tyrann Mathieu, Odell Beckham is still out there. Jarvis Landry is still out there. So there's a lot of big names out there that need to get picked up. Now, on the NBA front, there's 2 games. One just went final. Now, I don't know if anybody watched any basketball for the last week, but this last week of basketball has been phenomenal. And now we have the play-in tournament, which just went final. Brooklyn has eliminated Cleveland. So Brooklyn is going to get the 7th seed. They're going to play Boston in the first round starting on Sunday, which that was like the worst case scenario for the Brooklyn Nets.
Yeah, Boston's good.
Because Boston's good. Boston's got the best defense in the NBA, stat-wise right now. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are playing phenomenal basketball. They're both averaging around 26, 27 points a game. And it was funny because this team at first, before the beginning of the season, I was like, I'm not sure how this team is gonna mesh well together. We had question marks about this team, but the last 2.5, 3 months, they've been shutting people up and just winning game after game after game. But now they climb to the 2nd seed, so they get Brooklyn. The game that's in progress right now, it just started, just tipped off, is the Clippers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Minnesota with an early 7-2 lead right now over the Clips. I believe this game, if I'm correct, the loser will go home, and the winner will play for the 8th spot, I believe. I have to double check that. But playing tournament, there should be 2 games tomorrow. Yes, Charlotte and Atlanta is tomorrow, and no. So this one is the 7th versus 8th spot. So the winner of this game will get the number 2 seed, or get the number 7 seed, which then they will go on and play the number 2 seed, which I believe is. Let me check here. Is the Memphis Grizzlies. Kind of a bad matchup too. So, well. The Memphis Grizzlies have some injury issues as well. So, but I love the play-in tournament. I'm excited for the playoffs to be starting. And it's weird because usually the NHL playoffs start before the NBA playoffs. That's not the case this year. The NHL playoffs are starting in May. And the NBA playoffs start this week. Started today. So congratulations to the Brooklyn Nets. They get the 7th seed. But you also got to play the Boston Celtics, who are like the hottest team in basketball right now. But that's not really been the biggest news of the NBA season of this week. It's been all about the Lakers. And I hate talking about this shit. But it's news, so I have to talk about it. So, if you haven't heard, if you've been sleeping under a rock, the Lakers, let's see, what are you waiting? 33-49. They didn't even make the play-in tournament. Monday, Frank Vogel gets fired, which was expected. Now, let's put this in context for a second. Frank Vogel, who was on his 3rd year with the team, just won a championship 18 months ago. Just won a title in the bubble, in the most hardest conditions you can win an NBA championship in. They did it. Last year, they made the play-in tournament. They make to the playoffs and get bounced in the 1st round. Anthony Davis was hurt. There was questions about even he should have been in game 5 because they only won 1 game in that series. He played maybe the first 3 or 4 minutes. They pulled him out. This year, you bring in Russell Westbrook. You bring in Dwight Howard again. You had Rondo at one point. You traded him off. You brought in Carmelo Anthony. You brought in Ken Bizemore. You brought in Trevor Ariza. You're bringing all these old heads in. Anthony Davis can't stay healthy. He missed 24, 25 games. LeBron James missed a little over 30 games. Russell Westbrook had probably the worst season he's ever had as a basketball player. Now, mind you, a lot of people criticize him about his shooting, and I'm one of those people because he's terrible in the perimeter. Anything 14 to 15, anything 15 to 17 feet, he can't hit. He shot 43% from the field this year, which is the best he's ever shot, believe it or not. But that's not the type of player Russell Westbrook is. If you've ever watched him throughout his career, Russell Westbrook he needs the ball in his hands. As soon as he gets the ball in his hands, he's downhill and he's penetrating, he's forcing the situation. Russell Westbrook plays good when he's on the fast break, not in a slow pace, half-court offense. That's not how he works. but his game has never changed. Even in the days where he's in OKC. Now remember, Russell Westbrook comes from the OKC tree remember when they went to the finals and lost to the Heat? To LeBron. And he had KD and he had James Harden and he had Russell Westbrook on the same squad. That's the last time he's been to an NBA Finals. That's the only time he's been to an NBA Finals. Since then, where has he been? He's been in Washington. He's been in Houston. He's been in LA. Where else did he go? I think that's it. So you had Bradley Beal, you had Serge Ibaka, you had Kevin Durant, you had James Harden. Then they all leave. Then you go to Houston. You go back to James Harden. Then you go to Washington. You had Bradley Beal, and then you leave Washington. You come to LA. You got LeBron James. You have Anthony Davis. You have Carmelo Anthony, and you still can't win. The end of the season press conference for the Lakers was really pissed me off because. Let me rephrase it. Russell Westbrook has pissed me off all season. From the bad shooting to his bad decision making to saying there's no expectations. Are you kidding me? You are in purple and gold. You are from LA. So if anybody knows what the expectation is for the Los Angeles Lakers, it should be you. Now you're on this team with LeBron James, who is he's a four-time champion, five-time champion? Four-time champion. One in Cleveland, two in Miami, one in LA. You bring Anthony Davis, who just won his first chip 2 years ago. There's 17 world championships. 17. Second most to the Celtics. And you're telling me there's no expectations from all down the line, from Magic Johnson to Kobe to Shaq to Kareem. So for you to sit there and tell me there's no expectation, there was a high expectation. When they brought you in here, there was an expectation, yeah, we're 1 year removed from a championship. Bringing you in was a missing piece to getting back to title town. Now, I was skeptical in the trade. I tried to be positive about it from the beginning. I got excited, but then I started thinking, you got two guys who cannot be without the ball. Let's just face facts. LeBron James, at this point in his career, is a point guard. He's there to facilitate because he's good at it, but he can also take it to the rack and he shoots better and he's more efficient. Russell Westbrook, that's not the same player. The fact of the matter is, you're in a post-game, you're in the end of the season press conference, you're talking about you don't know why there was a disconnect or why there was a problem with you and Frank Vogel. Now, Frank Vogel getting fired, I don't blame it all on him. For the Lakers with the roster that they put on the table right here, I blame more front office. From the GM to ownership, to Judy Buss, all those guys, they brought this roster together. Rob Pelinka, you guys assembled this squad, even though you had chances to go get like Buddy Hield or other players besides Russell Westbrook, maybe Chris Paul. There was other players that wanted to come and play. DeMar DeRozan. I mean, you're seeing the success of the Chicago Bulls this season. That's mostly on the hands of DeMar DeRozan. He wanted to come here and play. He wanted to come to LA and play. You went the Russell Westbrook route. So my initial thought was it's going to be a problem because Russell Westbrook is a rhythm player. He plays off the rhythm of the pace of the game. You can't he's not a type of player that you can just do a half-court passing to him and seeking to set up. No. He goes full speed every single time. He gives you it all. And he's just not that type of player. Where LeBron, he can play half-court. He can play to the pace of the game. He can slow it down a little bit. So right there, I thought that was going to mesh, and I thought it was going to be an issue for Russell Westbrook because I didn't think he was going to be in rhythm at all this season. And you can tell by his shot selection and some of the misses. I mean, Russell Westbrook was missing wide open layups. He was airballing wide open layups, man. He was awful. And he's talking about, I don't know why Frank Vogel, we didn't mesh and stuff like that. I'm like, Frank Vogel pulled you out of a few games this season because he thought you were a liability on the court because you weren't shooting well. You weren't knocking down perimeter 15-foot shots, which normal NBA players can. You're just not a good shooter. You're good at the basket. Driving to the lane. That's what Russell Westbrook does. And you're talking about you sent him a bottle of champagne for winning a championship and stuff. What does that have to do with anything? I want Russell Westbrook to own up to his shit. Own up to the player that you are. You need to work on yourself. Stop making excuses. Stop putting the blame on everything else. It was you. Now, there was injuries that were played a role in this season. Yes, Anthony Davis wasn't healthy for half the season. Neither was LeBron James. But I need Russell Westbrook to own up to some of this shit because it's partly your play. You played 78 games, my dude. You played 78 games. You only averaged 17 points a game. You were a liability half the time on defense. You can't play defense. So for him to come out there and say that really pissed me off. Do I think this team can run it back? Hell no. Not with this roster constructed. One of them's got to go. It's got to be LeBron. It's not LeBron. I'll tell you that much. LeBron's not going nowhere. Do I think there's a market for Anthony Davis if you trade him? Absolutely. I don't think he's going there either. I think Russell Westbrook will be gone. He's due $45 million this year. 45. No way am I picking him up. No way am I picking that up.
What about both?
Huh?
What about both?
Both who?
What if they trade both of them?
They're not trading Anthony Davis. They're not going to. You would have to make an offer so ridiculous that the Lakers are forced to do that. And even then, LeBron don't let it happen. Now you're hearing rumors and chirpings around, and I saw this yesterday. I laughed a little bit, but I was like, it's not a real possibility because LeBron James said he wants to play with Steph. Like meaning not him going to Golden State. Steph coming to LA.
AD for Steph.
Bro, I would do that trade.
That's unfair. Three-way trades.
What do you mean it's unfair? There's super teams across the board. Look at this shit.
Bro,
I'm like,
you gotta do a three-way trade to get the Sixers to give up Embiid somehow.
you can do it.
If you set Russ up to the 76ers.
So Rob Pelinka is talking about they're not rushing their coaching search, but you're already hearing rumors. Doc Rivers comes to mind. Coach K coming back. You're also hearing Mark Jackson, who is an analyst on ESPN. Mark Jackson, I got an unfair shake. I thought he got let go prematurely in Golden State, and I think he kind of set them up to where they won the 3 chips. He was kind of the patriarch of that team. Steve Kerr took over a good team at the right time. But Mark Jackson is a hell of a good coach, and he's a defensive-minded coach, and that's what the Lakers need. But more importantly, the biggest problem I have with LeBron James is you put too much input on who you want to come there. Carmelo Anthony's your boy. He's your friend. Yeah, he can still play a little bit, but off the bench, he ain't no starter. Why you gotta bring all these old heads in here? You need good young talent. Buddy Hield is good. I don't know why people sleep on Buddy Hield, but he's balling in Indianapolis right now.
Maybe Tyrese Halliburton.
Ain't something, but there's got to be some decisions made. And Russell Westbrook, I'm sorry, but you need to own up to your part, your role in this disaster season. It's embarrassing. As a Lakers fan, it's embarrassing. Kobe, God rest his soul, is rolling over in his grave right now. I'll be damned. If he would alive to see this, I don't know what to say. two takeaways from it before we cut off the NBA stuff right now. As sport update, the Clippers are leading the Minnesota Timberwolves 16-11, 3.5 minutes left in the first quarter. That game's on TNT right now if you want to watch it. Two takeaways. There's not takeaways. There's two players that I think are under the most pressure in these playoffs when they start this week. Two players. One is James Harden. And I'll tell you, James Harden is under a lot of pressure because Philly went to the bank and spent a whole lot and gave a huge haul to bring James Harden into here. You gave up Ben Simmons, which I understand why. But James Harden is looking to get paid at the end of next season. He is a free agent at the end of next season. And you're in one of the toughest towns, one of the toughest sports towns, period. The fans will rip your head off if you don't deliver, especially what they gave up for him. You're in Philadelphia. That is not, it's a different type of beast when you're talking about Philly fans, whether it's the Eagles. And I know I have a lot of Eagle fans that I'm friends with. Those guys don't play. Sixers. Now, you're the Philadelphia 76ers. You gave up Ben Simmons and a bunch of draft picks to bring James Harden in here. You expect him to play at an all-star level and to compete for a championship. Joel Embiid is probably going to win the MVP award this year. He already won the scoring title. He's the first center since Shaquille O'Neal to win the scoring title. He averaged 30 points a game. He's probably going to win the MVP. Giannis is a close second. Joker, Luka, they're all in the conversation, but I think Embiid's going to win it. But there's a lot of pressure because you gave up a haul to bring James Harden in, and now James Harden's going to want $200 million next season. It's not a guarantee he's going to get that if they don't make a run this season in the playoffs. If they don't they need to at least make the conference championship for them to give you what you want. Otherwise, you just spent all that to bring him here for nothing. If he doesn't show up, and I'm just exclusively talking about James Harden, he needs to be playing phenomenal. No mistakes. Otherwise, this was a waste of a trade. You just gave up Ben Simmons. And I don't know what Ben Simmons' deal is right now. I mean, he's trying every excuse not to play. But I think at the end of the day, if James Harden doesn't show up in these playoffs, it will be a bad look. And he's not going to be getting paid. The other person that's under a lot of pressure will be Chris Paul. You were about a win away from winning the chip last year. This is your first NBA Finals in your career. You're getting to turn 37. You don't have a lot of time left. You're not. I mean, it's nationally known that Chris Paul is probably one of the best point guards to ever play the game. I don't think anybody would disagree with me about that. He's not the most athletic, but he's a floor general. He sets people up. He's a pit bull. He makes insane shots sometimes. He's very aggressive, but he's a good, all-around good player. He's a point guard. But time's running out. Father Time is undefeated. And if he can't get this done this year, because next year the West is going to be even more loaded. Denver's going to have all their guys back next season. If Steph Curry says, you'll have a fully loaded, healthy Golden State Warriors team with the young players getting better. Memphis, they're getting better every single game. You got to think the Lakers will rebound after this. So it doesn't get easier. So I think this year, if you don't win the chip this year, I'm talking about Phoenix, because right now Phoenix is probably the best team in the NBA. Offensively and defensively. They're the best team. Miami, I know, has the number 1 seed in the East, but there's still holes in Miami's game. Miami is good defensively. Offensively, I seen them play some games where they didn't know what to do on offense. There's something missing offensively with that team. That's why I'm not 100% sold on Miami winning the East. I've been saying it from the beginning. Do not sleep on Milwaukee. They are the defending champions. They lost PJ Tucker, so what? But they brought in other players. They're still the same core players that were there for the championship last year are still there. And they're the number 3 seed. They're going to be playing the Chicago Bulls this weekend. That's a mismatch for the Bulls. I think they don't have anybody in the middle to compete with Giannis. The Bulls are a younger team, but they're size-wise and defensively, Milwaukee's is gonna be too much for them. I think that series will be over in 5 or 6 games. But I think this season is the year that Chris Paul needs to win a chip. Otherwise, when are you gonna do it? The West gets stronger next year. Then you're gonna be. You might get a number 2 seed again, but I mean, look at the list of teams that are just loaded up on here. Dallas, Utah has an off season. They're still a number 5 seed. Denver's going to be better next year. Golden State will be better. It's just loaded. So those are 2 players I think have the most pressure. James Harden for his personal stuff, for him just to be relevant in this league again, and Chris Paul for trying to win a championship. Those are the 2 players I'm going to be looking for during these playoffs. Other news and notes, baseball started this week. I was one of the happiest people in the world on Thursday. Mariners lost today, though. Sad to say. But that's okay. Here's the thing. And I'm already hearing people, Mariners, they can't get the offense. I'm like, dude, we're on game 5. There's 162 games. Calm down. Relax. This is the ebb and flow of the Mariners. They'll get back to it. But they lose today. I believe the final was 4-2? 3-2. They're in Chicago right now playing the White Sox. So, my biggest takeaways, Mariners are, they made some moves here. I didn't think they were the biggest names in the free agent market. That being said, I do like the pieces that they brought in. The pitching has been the key. The pitching has been the key element of this team. Their bullpen, it was one of the strengths of this team last season. I thought they needed a little bit more power. There was a couple of guys I wanted them to bring in. Chris Bryant was a free agent. I wanted the Mariners to take a look and see if they could bring him in. The other one was who was talking about the Red Sox? It was can't remember the guy's name. But anyway, there was a couple guys I wanted them to bring some power bats to the lineup, and they brought Adam Frazier from Cincinnati, who I like. Suarez, who hit a home run today, I really like him. Robbie Ray he's a workhorse pitcher. I think that's a good solidify our rotation a little bit. But I still think overall we need to bring some more power to the lineup. So Ty France is good. And a lot of people are comparing him to Edgar Martinez. I think that's too premature to be comparing him to one of the best designated hitters of all time. Just my opinion. I'm hearing that and it just drives me crazy because I'm like, Ty France has been in the league for a few years. Edgar Martinez is a Hall of Famer. Like, don't start comparing the two. But Mariners lose today. They'll be playing tomorrow. Game time's at 3:30 specific time. And then they have an afternoon game on Thursday at 1 o'clock or 11 o'clock a.m. That's the TV broadcast. And then they'll be back home Friday for the home opener. I'm super excited this Friday. Ichiro's throwing the first pitch. It's the home opener for the Mariners. We're playing Houston for 3. I'm planning on going at least 3 or 4 games in this homestand. Cool. So they got 3. I know. It's a lot. I'll try to go to at least 3 or 4 home games. Well, it's a long homestand. It's a 9-game homestand. Or it's a 10-game homestand.
Wow.
Let me pull up the schedule here. Yes, so they have 3 against Houston, which will be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They have 3 against Texas, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then 3 against Kansas City, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they're here through this weekend and all of next week. They have a day off on Monday.
Just trying to catch a game.
I'm eyeballing for sure one of the Houston games this weekend. Either Friday or Saturday. What?
Oh, either Friday maybe.
Friday or Saturday. For sure, I'm gonna go to the game on Tuesday, next Tuesday. And then maybe some Kansas City game next weekend. It's gonna be packed.
Probably too.
It's gonna be packed. So I'm excited. I love going to baseball games. I've been waiting for baseball season, and I've been excited about this team. Even though right now we're 2-3, it's still early, guys. Don't freak out. Don't go crazy. There's a long season ahead. I remember the same talk was ran last year, and I'm like, we're only a week into the season. You guys are already giving up? Don't make no sense. So, ESPN is going to be, the game is going to be broadcasted on ESPN next Saturday. So that's a huge deal. So, Mariners lose today 3-2. They made a bid for it at the on the bottom of the ninth to try to tie it up, but came a little bit short. So they fall. We'll see. We'll pick it back up and get 2 out of 3 in these next 2 games. All right. So Mariners action, baseball action in general. I'm super excited. I love baseball. That means it's spring and summertime. That means nice weather. That means shorts, beer outside, the whole nine. So. Definitely do some live streams from the Mariners, from the Seahawks as well. Not from the Seahawks, but from some Mariner baseball games. I don't want to talk about the Seahawks right now because there's really not much to talk about.
You're bad.
You
guys are
we
bad.
got some decisions to make. Let's just put it that way. The Seahawks got some decisions to make. I've been looking at this draft board really close, and I still have no idea what they're going to do at number 8. I have no clue what this team is going to do at number 8.
Quarterback? Receiver?
What? You follow this team, you hear all sorts of stuff. The one I was hearing while I was in Vegas was DK Metcalf might be getting traded. I'm like, what? Do you know what you're... If that were to happen, they would try
Trade the farm.
burn the Space Needle down to the ground. It would have... Now, here's my opinion. Do I think the Seahawks are fielding offers for him? Yes. Why not?
They're going to get one that's...
If I was a GM, it don't matter what team, if somebody's interested in my best player, okay. What are you offering? What's the harm in that? That doesn't mean you're engaged in talks. It doesn't mean you're committed to it. But what's the harm in that? If somebody comes with you with an offer that you might raise an eyebrow to, like, maybe we can work with this. Maybe we can finagle another draft pick or a higher pick. One of their key players. It just doesn't make sense. Not to listen to offers, but at the same time, are you really going to move him? Because right now, at this point, you already traded away a franchise quarterback. You can build your team around DK. You're just going to have to bring somebody in that's going to work. The defense is solid. is not that bad. There's holes in it, but it's better than okay. Right now, if you're comparing the two between the offense and the defense, what's in a better situation right now?
Oh, the defense.
The defense is in a way better spot than the offense right now. The offense is in shambles essentially. I don't want to hear this BS about we'll be fine. We're not rebuilding. I'm like, no, you don't even have a quarterback. You Drew Lock, man.
Have fun. 3 years worth of it.
I saw the news. I got alerted today that the Seahawks are picking up the 5th-year option for Noah Fant, and I'm like, okay. So you're committed to Noah Fant, okay? But I mean, you're looking at a player who is a talent, by the way. You trade him to Seattle, but in the same damn position that he was in Denver. It didn't change. You're just in a different city, but you're still with the same damn quarterback you had the last few years. It doesn't make sense. But the trade market's heating up for DK, and that's just it's fact. Earlier, it was not even DK. It was Tyler Lockett who was getting a lot of press.
I read something about the Saints and maybe packaging Taysom Hill into it for DK.
I mean, the Taysom Hill here for DK, there's got to be some picks involved in that.
For sure.
Taysom Hill can come in and play better than
Lock.
Than Drew Lock. If you ask me today, who would you rather start, him or Drew Lock or Taysom Hill? I'm starting Taysom Hill without hesitation. And people look at me crazy. It's no hesitation. What has Drew Lock shown me in the past couple of years that would make me plug him in? There's nothing he has shown me.
I can answer that for you.
Well, I know you can answer it. You're a Broncos fan. He's been on your team. Now he's on.
Your problem now.
Yeah, he's the problem. I was talking to my barber yesterday about this, and he was like, San Francisco is the number 2 team in the NFC West. I was like, really? You don't think Arizona? No. He's like, their defense is not good. They lost people, and I don't trust Kyler Murray. I was like, okay, you know what? He does have a point. Because if you look at the 49ers, they've gone to the NFC Championship game in the last 2 years with Jimmy Garoppolo. And they have a better defense. They probably have the best defense in the division right now.
They should have traded for Matt Ryan.
I like the Matt Ryan move to Indianapolis. I really do. I think that you just added a team to that mix of teams that are competing for the AFC. You already got Buffalo, New England, Tennessee, Baltimore, KC, LA Chargers, Oakland, Las Vegas, and Denver in the mix. And Cincy. That's like 8 teams.
Yeah.
You thrust Indianapolis in there, now there's another team you have to deal with.
And Cleveland.
No, because we don't know. There's too many loose ends on that. You don't know if Deshaun Watson's even going to play the first half of the season. You don't know.
They just need to go 3-4 without him.
Well, whatever. They might even get that because their schedule is. Cleveland's schedule is not. I mean, it's not an easy schedule.
Well, you've looked at Seattle's schedule.
Their schedule is.
You know who comes back at some point this season.
Are they playing the AFC West this year? Oh my God!
Denver's supposed
You
to
just added insult to injury.
And Denver's supposed to be coming here.
That don't make no damn sense.
That's gonna be brutal. Brutal.
I'll be there for that.
I'll be there for that.
They don't have dates yet.
No, nothing's set on dates, but you know it's gonna be.
We just know the teams are playing.
Yeah, you know what they're playing and where.
Yeah, we just know the teams are playing. Okay, that's fine. If they put that, they'll probably put that on primetime more than likely.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
So if we're going back to.
unless they do it, The only thing I would see is they put it on a late prime time during the later in the season, like on Sunday Night Football, because then that could get flexed out. They can move it. That's the only thing I would concern myself with. You don't do that. You put them in early, when there's no flex involved, and you put them either on Thursday night, Sunday night, or Monday night. Period.
Sunday night football.
Whatever. I'm down with all three. I was talking to my friend and I was looking into, we're trying to go back. I took a tour of Lion Stadium, by the way, while I was in Vegas. That stadium is phenomenal.
So you trying to catch a Raiders product?
Nah, I'm trying to, I'm trying to go on either a Thursday night, Sunday night, or Monday night. Because,
Prime time?
yeah, I want to go to a game just on those days. I don't want to go during a day game, like in the afternoon, because if I go to so say I go to Thursday Night Football, they have one in Vegas, right? Then I can just stay the weekend and just watch football at a sports book. Or I can, if they have it on Monday Night Football, I can just fly in on Saturday, stay there Sunday, watch all the games at a sports book on Sunday, and then go to the game on Monday. Same thing on Sunday Night Football. I can go to the sports book and watch all the games, then head down to the stadium and watch the Raiders play on Sunday Night Football. That's why I want to do it, not on a day game.
Just let me know when.
But I don't know, man. I mean, he had a point though, and I was like, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not very good either, but the dude wins.
He does.
Now, I have a good friend I work with. His name is Josh, and he has been trying to get the 49ers to get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo for the last 2 seasons, and it looked like there's no market for Jimmy Garoppolo.
No.
All the slots are almost full.
Nobody wants him.
Nobody wants him now. I mean,
Seahawks.
the Seahawks are not going to trade within their own division. It's not smart. They wouldn't do that.
Okay, it's my rip team
Yeah.
apart.
They wouldn't trade their own division. So who do the teams that need quarterbacks? Because, I mean, there's not even a market for Baker Mayfield. Washington signed Carson Wentz over or before trading for Baker Mayfield or anything like that. Carson Wentz, who lost the last game of the season to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they got ousted out of the playoffs because of that. Now you got Sam Darnold in Carolina. The Saints. Here's the reason, and this is the logic I was telling my friend. I was like, look, you wonder why this offseason was like the Wild Wild West this whole year with the quarterbacks and stuff? Because they know there's no good quarterbacks coming out of the draft. None. That are ready to start day one.
Not one.
There's not one. So, did it surprise me that I see Russell Wilson get traded or anything or all these big name quarterbacks getting moved? Deshaun Watson get a $230 million fully guaranteed contract? No, because there's nothing out there. Now you can get Baker Mayfield cheap, so if he gets cut, I'm sure Carolina will be of interest. I'm sure the Seahawks will be interested at their price. But there's nothing out there. Garoppolo, where are you going to trade him to? I can run down every single team in their quarterback situation. There's nowhere he can go except for a couple teams. He can go to Carolina.
Send him to Tampa.
Send him to Tampa.
I'm back.
Brady's back. You don't need it. It's done.
I'm back. Brady up again.
The Saints re-signed Jameis Winston.
Darnold.
I already said Carolina. I mean, Kirk Cousins re-signed with Minnesota. There's that. Where are you going to trade him to? Detroit, Jared Goff?
He's better than Jared Goff.
There's no other team I can think of. Zach Wilson, the Jets are all in on him.
I don't know why.
Well, because you spent all that draft capital to move up to get him.
He's terrible.
He's only in year one.
He's never going to make it. Sorry. The Jets.
That's just my logic. That's all I'm saying. So, as far as the Seahawks goes, there's not really much options until after the draft. Do they go after a quarterback early? I would not. I would not.
Stack up for next year.
I mean, that's the traditional way Josh Snyder works. That he usually trades down to get more picks later. But we'll see. I don't think they're going to do that this
Is
year.
there anyone in college that's
I-
on the radar right
I think that if there's a guy on their board, on their list that they feel is solid and he's still there by the 8th pick, I think they will use that.
now?
If you don't hear anything, but if we're watching the draft and you don't hear anything about at round 5 or 6, the 6th round, they're using that pick.
If Seattle is smart, they will use all their picks to make their defense and O-line good. They will,
Well, O-line, yeah, O-line's the
they
issue
will
too.
worry about the quarterback next season. Just deal with Drew Lock for a year, and then you can go get your guy.
Maybe he'll surprise you. I don't know.
Definitely won't.
Before we wrap up the show, a few more notes and stuff like that. I love my movies and stuff like that. Monday, the Batman will be on HBO Max. So, kind of a dumb move by Warner Brothers to do that because they wanted to do a 45-day release before they put it on streaming, and the movie is still making money because it made about $7.5 million last week again. It's getting closer to that $800 million number. So it's an achievement in a pandemic era to, now it's not coming close to Spider-Man numbers, obviously, but almost $800 million globally, that's pretty good. And it's an excellent movie. But they feel like it's going to be a way to add more subscribers and stuff. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but we'll see. But that comes out on Monday. Tonight, episode 3 of Moon Knight. If you haven't been watching, you done. Get off your ass, get that Disney Plus, watch that show. It is probably the best show on Disney Plus since WandaVision. And WandaVision was really good. Now, granted, Falcon and Winter Soldier was good. Loki, I liked. Hawkeye, not as much. I thought Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki were better than Hawkeye, but WandaVision was really good. If you haven't watched WandaVision, you should watch that, especially with the new Doctor Strange movie is coming out here in a couple weeks. It really ties into that show. So, and the Spider-Man flick as well. But Moon Knight, I haven't been this excited about a show on Disney Plus since WandaVision. And these first 2 episodes have been phenomenal. Oscar Isaac is fantastic in this role. And Ethan Hawke as a villain in this role is phenomenal. He's fucking amazing. So, episode 3 is tonight. Check it out. I will be giving my review. Last episode, you got a lot of insight on both personalities of Oscar Isaac's character. So you kind of got a fill-in on how it was going to be. So, and at the end of the show, they ended up they're somewhere in Egypt. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't wait. So tonight, I'll be tuning in. This weekend, I will be going to check out Ambulance, the new Jake Gyllenhaal flick. And I believe Friday, I do have tickets to go see the new Fantastic Beasts movie this weekend. So that'll be out on Friday. Yeah, it's a kiddie flick. It's Harry Potter. If you like Harry Potter, I'm a Harry Potter fan. So Fantastic Beasts is right up my alley. So that'll be out this weekend. Next week, I'll give you a review on that. And Ambulance as well. I wouldn't want to see Ambulance. I've heard really good things about that. And then I'm falling behind on the Halo series. So that's my job tonight is to watch the last 2 Halo episodes because I missed the last 2. And I'll talk about that next week as well. But the new trailer, the final trailer for the Doctor Strange flick dropped over the week. And I gotta say, I'm more confused as ever. This looks like just a bananas movie in special effects in this trailer. And I got excited about it, and I heard the runtime of it. It's only 2 hours, which is perfect. sometimes you don't need to overdo these movies. Like with the Batman, I thought they could have trimmed it down 15, 20 minutes. It didn't need to be 3 hours. You could have given me 2.5 hours of that. But Sam Raimi, who did the original Spider-Man movies, is directing this Doctor Strange film. So that's part of my excitement, because if anybody's a Spider-Man lover, you love the first 3 Spider-Man films with Tobey. I mean, it's Tobey Maguire. Come on. So Sam Raimi doing this one, I was super excited about. The special effects, this movie looks bonkers. It looks absolutely insane. Morbius, I didn't get to review this last week. Quick review on Morbius. I was a little disappointed. And here's the reason why. It didn't seem like, it's hard to explain. Basically, bottom line, long story short, it wasn't Jared Leto's fault. He did a phenomenal job in the role. I just thought, what's the reason for Tyrese being in the movie? He was only in there for a couple scenes. There's no reason for him doing this. He's investigating guys getting their blood sucked out of him. And I'm like, but he was only in it for a few scenes. The action was kind of so-so. There were some cool special effects. But overall, the placement of, there's plot holes all over the place. There was plot holes all over the place. And it was just underwhelming. I mean, for the amount of media attention and the amount of advertisement they put into this movie, I mean, it did well the first week. It did really well the first week, but rumors started getting around and the reviews went up a little bit, but not very good. It's like a 34% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is not very good. For a Marvel film, which you're trying to establish a franchise and start your own Sonyverse of Spider-Man films that you're collaborating with DC, there's a higher expectation. Because if you look at any of the Marvel stuff, just Marvel on the Disney side, they don't put out bad movies. You feel me? Like, they don't. They make movies that are good and get great reviews that make a lot of money. This movie's gonna make some money, but it's just not a very well put together film. So I was a little disappointed about that. Both my daughters love anything that we go see, so they gave it 10 stars. Of course they did. I'm like, okay, I'm glad you guys had a good time. Mm-hmm. Me personally, I'm just like, when does Fantastic Beasts come out? Other than that, it's not I think you should see it for yourselves. It's not a terrible movie, but the expectation that I had and the amount of, this movie got pushed back damn near 2 years on top of that. So when it gets pushed back like that, I expect you have plenty of time to make changes and stuff. And I think the changes that they made were too much. That kind of downgraded the movie a little bit. Overall, out of 10 stars, I give it a 6. That's my review on Morbius. But next week, I'll have my review on Fantastic Beasts. I'm pretty sure it's going to be better than that one. And we'll see on Ambulance as well. And then we'll talk about episode 3 of Moon Knight. And then we'll get into some NBA. Like, by the time we have our episode next week, the playoffs will be in full swing. The Mariners will be back in town. So we're going to get into all that. The town's going to be, it's going to be nice out. Hopefully no hail, no rain or anything like that. We'll have some good weather for some good baseball. And we'll get into some NBA playoffs. I love the NBA playoffs. It's my favorite time of the year. I just wish it was with the Lakers in it. So I don't know how this feels because they're usually in it all the time. Well, I do kind of know because towards the end of Kobe's career, that team was a shit show. They were really bad. They were just trying to finish out his contract.
Brandon Romero.
Oh, God.
Lonzo Ball.
Oh, God, we don't want to talk about that. But next week, we'll talk NBA playoffs. We'll talk, we're getting closer to the draft as we're getting closer to the draft on the 28th, so we're about 2 weeks away from the draft. Please like, subscribe, share, tell all your friends, neighbors, cats, dogs, Bears, Line Tires and Bears, everything. Like, subscribe, share the page. Follow me on Facebook. You already know what it is. Check out my reels and stuff like that, and we'll get it popping. So until next time, you guys, I love you, and we'll see you soon.
Peace.
Peace out.